what's the most obvious part of brainstem? Pons, here. And what is this thing right here?
Cerebral aqueduct.
Cerebral aqueduct connecting third ventricle to fourth ventricle. That's right. Okay. What is this eye of Woody? Woody's eye is actually what? It's where the two purple eggs were connected. They've been cut. Everybody got that? We'll find out. Okay. Now, Woody Woodpecker's beak here has an infundibulum hanging down his pituitary gland. That's right. What's its technical name? Hypophysis, bless you. Notice the optic chiasma here. What is that?
It's where the optic nerve attaches.
Where the two optic nerves cross. Yeah. You should see optic nerves today, but if they cut them off short, you won't see much. If they leave it on longer, it's pretty suppressive. Sometimes they left it on most of the time. Okay, this is midbrain. You see the little green bumps here? Okay, there's an upper one and a lower one. The superior colliculus, inferior colliculus. However, there are two above and two below. Superior colliculi, inferior colliculi. That's a total of 4. If the doctor comes out and says, congratulations, you have 4 babies, you would say, oh my word, we have quadruplets, that's right. So they made a corpora, which is plural for bodies. 4 bodies is what this is saying. Corpora quadrigemina. And this is what part of brainstem? Midbrain. So midbrain has these 4 bumps on the posterior side, and they are the corpora quadrigemina, or the colliculi. 2 superior colliculi, 2 inferior colliculi. Okay? Any question?
What was their function?
I didn't get into it. The 2 upper ones, the 2 lower ones, it's vision and hearing. And the 2 upper ones, I think it's vision, and the 2 lower ones are hearing, but without going back and thinking about it, I'm not sure. So these are pathways and connections that make a difference, but it's kind of complicated if you try to get into all of it. Yeah, I had a memory device, and he said, stuck your finger in your ear and say, hear in me. Then the inferior colliculus is hearing, and the superior one is vision. Hear in me, I remembered it that way. Don't you just love that color coding? Say yes, say no. I love it. Look at that. This would be such a nightmare if you didn't have that and the labels. Okay? So, we enjoy it when we have color coding. Your brain dissection today will not have color coding. Okay? Here we have the 2 purple eggs. Who's that? Thalamus. And I like the way they do this anyway. Inside the thalamus, they've got a bunch of jelly beans. Aren't those colorful? Jelly beans. And what do they represent? Nuclei. What are nuclei? Neuron cell bodies. And they even have names here. Ventral anterior, ventral lateral, ventral posterior lateral. So they've named some of these nuclei in here inside the purple eggs. And here at the back, they even have medial geniculate body, lateral geniculate body. Like the here in the, I think this is hearing, medial geniculate body. Okay, then we've got some jelly beans in here. This is in the hypothalamus, and they've named some of them. Here's this one, suprachiasmatic nucleus. And suprachiasmatic nucleus is a biological clock. So this is directing how you develop over time and age. Biological clock. Supraoptic nucleus means its position is above the optic chiasma. Optic chiasma is where the two optic nerves cross. One nerve from one eyeball, one nerve from the other eyeball, and they cross, and that's the optic chiasma. Any questions? Okay. Here we have a lot of dianems. The two thalami, or two thalamus. No, it's not two. There's only one. Two purple eggs is one thalamus. So you've got them there. That's Diane. You've got the hypothalamus coming down towards the pituitary here, and in the back you have the pineal gland here. Remember those colliculi we were just talking about? The two superior colliculi, the two inferior ones. So hearing was inferior. So these are vision. And this is brainstem. Here's the pons. It has the largest cranial nerve thickness. It's the thickest diameter cranial nerve, and you should know it. Trigeminal nerve, number 5. Cranial nerve number 5, trigeminal nerve. What's it do for you? It gives you face sensations. Face sensations. Bless you. And what's this red stuff? Choroid plexus. You say, I don't see any ventricle. Right there. Okay. So the ventricle is right here. And this is the choroid plexus. But they didn't show you all that stuff. They just showed it to you like this up here. So the red hair is supposed to be this. Any questions? There's,
Trigeminal nerve?
trigeminal is the widest of the cranial nerve.
Specifically the fifth one?
And it is cranial nerve 5. How many cranial nerves total? A dozen, 12. Okay. So now you learn cranial nerve 5 is trigeminal. What other one did we talk about today? Which one? Optic nerve. Okay. What number is that? 2. It's for vision. Optic nerve. You'll see those today. Okay. What other one that we talked about? Sort of. Remember the Q-tip? Olfactory nerve. Yeah. That one is the shortest of the cranial nerves. Olfactory nerve. So this was an interesting idea they did here. I really like it. They said, let's cut the brainstem in 3 different places. And let's look at the cut to see what we see. So up here, you cut, you get this. Well, where were you? That's midbrain. Then down here, you cut through pons. That's down here. Here, you cut through medulla oblongata. And this is what you got. They look different, don't they? They show you different things are in there. So we come down here to the pons. What do you see? Well, the 2 nerves are the pair of nerves called trigeminal nerves. That's right, which is for what? Facial sensation. Okay, back here we see some of the 4th ventricle, which is full of cerebrospinal fluid, which is moving around because of cilia, ependymal cells. And you have more of the 4th ventricle down here, the medulla oblongata, and you even have some of the red, what's that? Choroid plexus, the red hair, Woody's red hair. So you're making more of the CSF there. And I told you didn't have to go to Egypt to see pyramids because there are the pyramids of medulla oblongata. And who does a decussation near the pyramids? Who does the decussation near the pyramids?
Is it the medulla oblongata?
It's in the medulla oblongata. Which ones of the fibers coming down across there? Do you remember?
No, projection.
Projection fibers, right. Okay, now let's go up to the midbrain. This is probably the more interesting one of all, the most interesting. Okay, now we're gonna play ink blot test. Everybody into that? What do you see when you look at this? Well, I'll tell you what I see. I see this little animal with its head upside down, looking at me with its red eyes and its bushy brown eyebrows. Do you see that? And look at its little mouth here. And look at its double chin. This is a cute little animal. We can talk about this for a bit. Okay? This is what we see when we cut midbrain. Okay? What are the two red eyes? Red nuclei. Okay? What does that mean? Their eyes are red, but what else does it mean? Those are neuron cell bodies.
Okay.
Groups of neuron cell bodies. How about the brown eyebrows? What are those called? Substantia nigra. And nigra means dark. So they're dark. Okay. What do they make? They make them a biogenic amine. Can you tell me which one? Michael J. Fox wishes he had more of it. Dopamine. Okay, so you make dopamine down here in the midbrain, and you ship it up to the basal nuclei, and if you don't do that, then you can end up with Parkinson's disease. And that's not good. Okay, what if these are starting to deteriorate? Well, then they don't look as dark. Okay, that's just not a good thing. How about the little mouth? What's that? It is. It's the cerebral aqueduct from the third and fourth ventricle connection here. And you get a little mouth. CSF's flowing through that. And what about the double chin? Superior colliculus, actually two of them. Superior colliculi, and they're above the inferior ones. I believe that's the vision part of the four bumps in the posterior midbrain. So there's interesting things to be seen here in this diagram of what was cut through. Any questions? Over here we have some interesting things, not all colored real well. This is what?
Cerebellum.
Cerebellum, because its appearance is arborvitae, which means tree of life. This is the fourth ventricle here. And you know there's some red what? Choroid plexus in here too. And they show it different ways. Look at the bumps up here. So these are those colliculi. And the colliculi are where?
The base of midbrain.
They're midbrain. Yeah, they're posterior midbrain. Okay.
I always heard that, like, you don't regenerate spinal fluid.
You don't what?
I've always heard that you can't regenerate spinal fluid, or that it's limited.
No, I don't think it's a limit. Maybe preserving it is a different story. You know, saving it in the refrigerator or something, that may be a possibility. But CSF, the problem, a lot of times ends up not having enough. No, not that, sorry. It's ending up with too much. Because CSF travels around. And one of these has a real good picture of it. I don't think it's here, I think it's back there. Yeah, this is page 466. Page 466. So any of the red choroid plexuses, here are the lateral horns, they make CSF. and the little arrows tell you how it flows. It can flow around in the brain, it can flow down the spinal cord, it can flow back up again, but you're making it all the time from the choroid plexus groups. And then it will eventually come out here and come around the brain, and then go out these little weird things called arachnoid granulations. Arachnoid granulations. Where do they take it? They take it into venous blood here in the superior sagittal sinus. So your extra CSF is gonna end up in the blood, which is okay, because that's where it came from in the first place. So superior sagittal sinus, and you have to keep draining this. What if it doesn't drain?
Is the brain swells?
Brain swells. It's called
Hydrocephalus.
hydrocephalus. Take a look at this little child. Look how the head swelled up. You see, as a child, your bones are still soft and they can give. If it was an adult, they can't do that, okay? So it would kill the adult. But in the baby, they can actually survive with this for quite a while, because they just keep enlarging the head, and that works. When I was in elementary school, there was this little kid behind me, and his parents brought him to a program once at the school. That's where it was quite noticeable. And they carried him, he was younger, his sister was a little older than he was, and the head was already large at that time, before he was really into elementary school. And I got to see him at different times, including middle school, and by that time, his head was as big as a basketball.
Oh, wow. So can you just like drain it and fix it and then?
Well, that's a good point. Could they put a drain in, and they do that, from the brain down into the abdomen and drain it that way? They're doing that now, but they didn't do it for him. It was probably pretty early, and maybe his parents didn't have insurance or whatever, I don't know. So, I saw that he was in the special needs class, because there's mental retardation with that, if it keeps on going.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, you'd like to catch it before they got that way. But this can start in on an adult too, and they can put drain in, and be draining that, because the person's gonna die if you don't do
What do we
it.
call it, shunts or
Shunt,
something?
it's a shunt, yeah. So, we don't really have a problem, not enough CSF, then there might be conditions like that. The problem is more likely gonna be too much, not draining enough.
Okay, I have a follow-up question.
Yes,
So we've talked about how there's like brain, blood-brain barrier,
yes.
and I thought that the, CSF was like how you combat that, but then now we're saying that one system feeds the other one.
So,
So like where's
well,
the,
the fluid, see, fluid is one thing, blood cells, and larger molecules, that's another. So it
Okay.
works like a barrier. Is it 100%? Probably not. But it's seriously blocking.
but can we think of the CSF system as as separate from the blood system? Or is it not really like?
The blood system is actually providing your CSF.
Okay.
So what we're looking at here is a wrapping around the brain. It's not the best picture in the world, but this is wrapping around the brain. The brain is inside 3 wrappings, one inside the other, inside the other. The outermost wrapping is the toughest one, and it's quite durable. It's the dura mater, that's here, what we're seeing, okay? And then inside of that is, meninge, these are called meninges. The meninge inside that is the arachnoid mater, because it looks like a spider web. So they got the idea of the arachnoid idea. And then inside that is a very fine one called pia mater, pia mater. So you got these 3 coverings around the brain. And the outermost one is dura mater, you're gonna see that in just a moment. And it actually can get down inside the longitudinal fissure. So down below here, we have a drawing that this is where the longitudinal fissure would be. So you get some of that coming down in there, and that's what they're drawing here. Saying in the part of the meninges that comes down in there, the dura mater is actually given a name, falx cerebri. Falx cerebri. If you looked at it closely, it would have a shape of a sickle, and you can kind of see how that would be.